Hey everybody, welcome back to Sophisticakes by Mary. For this video, I'm showing you how I made this edible lace and sunflower cake on a chocolate ganache cake. The edible lace I am so excited to see is making a comeback because I've been doing that for a while. The edible lace that I typically used is in short supply and kind of expensive right now. So I did find a replacement recipe from scratch. So if this sounds like something you want to see, stay tuned. So for this edible lace, the first thing you need is half a cup of boiling water and add 1 table of Tylose powder to it. Mix it up real good. I started with a spoon and then I switched to a fork because when you mix this, it does like to clump. And you're not going to be able to get all those clumps out. So don't even worry about it. As you spread it onto the mat, it will kind of work itself out. But I did press it against the sides of my measuring cup, trying to get out as many as I could. To that, you're going to add 1 tablespoon of powdered sugar, 1 tablespoon of cornstarch, and 1/4 teaspoon of meringue powder, and 1 tablespoon of clear corn syrup. Now mix this up real good too. And it's going to thicken up, and then you're going to add your color. You can use whatever color you want. I wanted to go with the white lace because I thought it would look really good against the dark chocolate background of the chocolate ganache that I used. So mix this up real good. Now it's going to be thick, but you're going to spread it thinner. Now this is my mat. You can tell it's been used and abused. It used to all be blue, but I used a colored lace in there at one point, or a couple times, black I believe actually, and it stained it, but that's okay. Still works. And I like this mat because the leaves in the lace have a point to them, and I thought that went really, really well with the sunflowers that I found. And you're going to spread this real good into all of the nooks and crannies. Go from all different angles because you're going to want to try to get it filled in as good as you can with as few air bubbles as possible. That's why I didn't mix the lace in a mixer, because it would probably give it too many air bubbles, and those are hard to beat. So spread it real good in there, and then scrape off your excess. And I preheated my oven to 170 degrees. It's the lowest setting on my oven. And I put it in there this is the second coat. I put it in there for 10 minutes at that setting. Took it out, did another coat. Then I put it back in the oven for another 10 minutes at 170 degrees. And at that point, what I found with this from scratch edible lace, to keep it from getting too crunchy, because that's the problem I had in the past, was that it would get crunchy, that I would then put a wooden spoon in the door of the oven to let some of that really hot heat out. And I did it for 5 more minutes, probably 2-3 times for each piece of lace. So you're doing 10 minutes to begin with, another layer, another 10 minutes at the 170 degrees, then prop the door open and do 5-minute segments until it is matte looking and it doesn't look shiny. But be careful you don't cook it for too long because it will get crunchy. Then I left it sitting out in the mat next to a fan to cool off before I took it out of the mat, because I also found that if you take it out of the mat without completely cooling it, it would shrink, and I didn't want that. So anyway, so I got it to work, and I will link the recipe in the description box. But now we're prepping our cake, and I used devil's food cake, and I'm using dark chocolate ganache, which is 1 cup heavy cream to 2 cups of the dark chocolate ganache. And I layered it with some Oreos, and I'm just spreading the ganache in to fill in the holes here. And you're gonna see the cookies through the side before I go back and I fill in those sides. But don't worry, no gaps were left unganached. Now I did 4 layers of cake and 3 fillings. Now this is a pretty tall cake. If you feel better, you can go in and you can put a board halfway through with some straws to add some extra support. But since I'm using the ganache, once it is cooled and set up, and it's only 6-inch cakes, that I used, it held up fine. That ganache firms up really, really tight. If I had done buttercream, I probably would have done a support. Now I'm filling in those layers, packing it in there, and then doing a thin crumb coat. Now after I get this crumb coated, I'm going to put it in the refrigerator. Actually, I put it in the refrigerator for about 20 minutes and I found that it was still a little sticky because it's still humid out right now. So I put it in the freezer for 10 minutes and it firmed up enough that I could go back in and do my second layer. Now, if your ganache starts getting thick as you're applying it, just pop it into your microwave for 10-second intervals until it's more of a peanut butter consistency. The dark chocolate ganache I find is the easiest to work with. Milk chocolate is kind of on the thinner side, and then white chocolate, ugh, it's a beast. You have to do more 2.5 to 3 parts of the white chocolate to the 1 part of cream, I find. And it never really firms up as but as firm as a dark chocolate ganache. And this is my third and final coat. I skipped the second because this can be a little monotonous. You get the point. Now to get my edible lace to stick, I am using a combination of, right here I'm just using water, and it worked fine, but I had my piping gel out in case I needed it. But you don't want to get your edible lace too wet. Like, you don't want to apply the water directly to the lace because it will disintegrate if there's too much water. And now I'm going back in with some piping gel just to reinforce those edges. And be careful as you're applying this that you're not getting chocolate on your hands and then transferring it onto your white lace. Just watch where your hands are going. Make sure you notice if they're wet, wipe them off. And then I'm applying my second layer over the top of it. I do overlap where the pieces meet just a smidge, maybe 1/4 inch, because I find that it does shrink a little bit as it's sitting, and you don't want to have gaps. And I'm just using my little pinking shears to cut off the excess. I'm kind of trying to follow the pattern. And then reinforcing with a little bit more piping gel. And you can't even really see the seam. There's enough of a pattern going on, you don't really see it. And I'm going to put some on the top as well, the same way. And this edible lace silicone mat that I have, it's just one of many. If you Google it, you can find a lot. I've just had this one for a long time, and I have a lot. I don't need to buy any more. I thought about it, but I don't need to. I have so many. Like I said, 5 to 10 years ago, we did this edible lace a lot. With the gold sequins, that was kind of my trademark, was the edible lace and the gold sequins. Now, to get this to lay flat on top, you could cut it flush against the top if you wanted to, if you wanted a crisp edge there, or you can wrap it around. Now, just cut the slits down around the piece that's sticking out the top, about 1 inch wide. And then you can just lay them on top of each other, down on top. Like I said, the lace pattern blends it in, and I was planning on putting flowers on the entire top anyways. I found these gorgeous sunflowers at Walmart, of all places. This pack of flowers was $4.49. I was gonna make some wafer paper and gum paste sunflowers to show you that also, but I couldn't make them that cheap. So I just went ahead and bought them. And bonus, time saver, right? I was trying to get a little extra free time this week, so I definitely went that route. Now, I did wrap the stems with floral tape. I filmed it, but my hands weren't in frame, so you'll just have to look back on other videos where I have fresh flowers and I show you how I do that if you're interested in that. And then I just went ahead and used the baby's breath. This is kind of I don't want to say an old school design, but it's more vintage, and these are coming back, which I am there for. So I just did not actually wrap the stems of these baby's breath because I knew I was just going to stick them in, and they're not actually sticking into the cake. They're just poked in, and they're going to be held down by the sunflowers. I was originally going to leave the bottom edge just with the lace, but then I noticed that you could kind of see my cake board sticking out. So I just went ahead and used some of these they're chocolate balls that are covered with white candy of some kind. And I just used piping gel to get them to stick around the bottom. I think it looks pretty too. In cake design, we have to be flexible. Sometimes things don't go exactly the way we plan, but you know what? You realize if you don't have a contract and you're kind of left to your own devices, nobody knows what was in your head to begin with. Go with it. Claim it. It's like, yeah, that's what I was planning on doing. Perfect, right? Now, I wish I had one more sunflower for the back, but that's okay for pictures purposes, and this is not for an order. It worked. So there you go, guys. This is my edible lace from scratch 6-inch 4-layered sunflower baby's breath cake. I think she's really pretty, and I love the color, the white and the yellow with the brown, and the way that the brown of the ganache matches the center of the flowers. I think it goes together really well. So I hope you liked it, and I hope you got something from it, and I hope you give this a go, and I will link all of my supplies down below. And like, subscribe, do all the things, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks, guys. Bye.